Bitcoin, since the beginning of this year, is up over 160%. Nothing even comes close. Bitcoin is comparable to gold, right? And you can see right now it beats gold 7:1 in terms of its returns this year alone.
Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Money Shot. लास्ट एपिसोड में हमने कवर किया था कि बिटकॉइन क्या है, पिछले कुछ सालों में क्या हुआ बिटकॉइन के साथ, 2017 क्रैश उसने कैसे सरवाइव किया और क्यों हमें लगता है कि बहुत ही इंपॉर्टेंट चीज़ है जिसके बारे में हमें पढ़ना चाहिए इन्वेस्ट करने से पहले. सो आई एम डेविस
एंड आई एम परीक्षित
And I'm Vishesh.
अब ये तो समझ में आ गया कि अभी probably Bitcoin is young and now is the time when people are ready to accept Bitcoin not only as a store of value but also from a transaction point of view, as you said कि US में you can still go and buy things but I still can't understand कि why are you so bullish about it. As you said, it's very young. Abhi, it's just gone through one big test. Probably there would be more big tests that is required. What is the upside of it?
Right. So it is young, right? So like you said, it is still young. It is still in its early days. So one thing I will say is the fact that it is young and that it is in its early days is the reason why it is a very good investment opportunity today. If Bitcoin is discovered by the whole world and it achieves its full potential, its price will have also gone up to that point. So the whole point of this conversation and the reason why I am so bullish right now is because right now we have a bull cycle in front of us. We have this whole opportunity where majority of the market, majority of the investors have no knowledge of Bitcoin. It is like, think about in the 90s, buying the Amazon stock. Amazon is now a $2 trillion company. And in the 90s, it was making losses. When it started, it was selling books. Nobody had imagined what Amazon could be. And only few people were betting on Amazon. Very few people invested in Amazon. And so that is where I feel there is this opportunity. So now why is this time different? And there is so much news coming. 2020 is such a big year for Bitcoin, starting with the pandemic. But there is so much news coming I've actually prepared a list. So I'm going to try and go through that list to tell you guys what are the different things happening, which will explain to you why we are in a sort of bull market. So one of the things that I want to establish here is 2020. What is the biggest event of 2020? Coronavirus, pandemic, lockdown, recession. That happened everywhere in the world. It happened in the US also, right? And in the US, the response of the government was printing money. They started printing money. Now, remember, we've talked about Bitcoin being a store of value. We will cover in a different episode why it is a better store of value than gold, but it is a store of value for some people, at least right now. So why do people invest in a store of value asset, right? You look at any investment advisors, they will generally advise you, थोड़ा पैसा stocks में डालो, थोड़ा पैसा mutual funds में डालो, थोड़ा fixed deposits में डालो और थोड़ा gold या store of value type assets में डालो या real estate में डालो. Real estate is also a form of store of value. आप एक घर खरीदते हो and over a period of time that house holds its value or increases. So that is the use case. So now, why do people put that, or they advise putting money in gold? Is because it is a good hedge against inflation. We know that money will keep getting printed. Fiat money, currencies will keep getting printed. So as more and more get printed, their inflation will occur and the currency will lose its value. But that value can be stored in assets like gold. So that is the one big reason why Bitcoin really took off this year, because US printed more money this summer during the pandemic than it has ever printed in all of the previous 200 years put together. So that level of money printing has never been seen in the world before. And that means that it is only a matter of time before the US currency starts getting devalued or debased. And when that happens, then people will rush towards store of value because whatever money you're holding, it's losing value.
So guys, I just want to quickly explain कि like Vishesh said, जब मनी प्रिंटिंग होती है, जब गवर्नमेंट्स और मनी प्रिंट करती है तो इन्फ्लेशन होता है. वो क्यों होता है अगर आप लोगों को नहीं पता है, हम इसको डिटेल में कवर करेंगे, पर एक सिंपल लाइन में मैं आपको अभी बता देता हूँ. जब गवर्नमेंट पैसा प्रिंट करती है तो मार्केट में, कंट्री में ज्यादा पैसा आ गया, बट द अमाउंट ऑफ गुड्स एंड सर्विसेज जो कंट्री में थी वो उतनी ही है. लोग को पैसा क्यों चाहिए? गुड्स एंड सर्विसेज खरीदने के लिए चाहिए. अभी पैसा ज्यादा आ गया है और उतने ही गुड्स एंड सर्विसेज हैं, तो जो लोग गुड्स एंड सर्विसेज दे रहे हैं, बिकॉज पैसा ज्यादा आ गया है, वो प्राइसेस बढ़ा देते हैं, और दिस इज हाउ मनी प्रिंटिंग लीड्स टू इंक्रीज इन प्राइसेस एंड हेंस मनी प्रिंटिंग लीड्स टू इन्फ्लेशन. हम लोग हमेशा सोचते होंगे कि यार पैसा प्रिंट करना अच्छा है, राइट, इट्स गुड फॉर, बट दिस इज द थिंग, जब पैसा प्रिंट हो रहा है और गुड्स एंड सर्विसेज इंक्रीज नहीं हो रही हैं तो आपका प्राइस भी बढ़ रहा है. सो टेक्निकली इट्स नॉट रियली अ गुड थिंग इन द लॉन्ग टर्म. शॉर्ट टर्म, यस, लिक्विडिटी आ रही है एंड ऑल ऑफ दैट इज गुड, बट लॉन्ग टर्म में इट इज नेवर अ गुड थिंग. So that's what, just wanted to explain Vishesh's point there. Yeah, Vishesh, you can continue.
And another thing to just think about at its basic, what is a bull market? Bull market's basic definition is that it is an expanding universe of buyers that outpace the number of sellers, right? That is a bull market. When you have more buyers than sellers, you're in a bull market. So now let me give you examples of what is exactly happening. Actually, Bitcoin has been the best performing asset class since the day it was formed. If we look at the last 12 years, 2008 to now, I mean, it went from less than $1 to, $18,000 plus. No other asset class has that kind of returns. But if we purely look at, this year, right? This year, 2020. I'm US market की बात करूँगा. US stock market, the S&P 500 stocks, which is the top 500 companies in the US. S&P 500 index is up 10% since the beginning of the year. Gold, which is a store of value asset, is up 24%. So it does better than S&P. Now, Bitcoin, since the beginning of this year, is up over 160%. Nothing even comes close. Bitcoin is comparable to gold, right? And you can see right now it beats gold 7:1 in terms of its returns this year alone. And so when you look at such numbers, smart money notices this. Smart money, I mean institutional investors, high net worth individuals, Wall Street, everybody's noticing that Bitcoin is constantly performing like this, right? Over the years. Even last year, Bitcoin was the highest performing or top performing asset class. And so as a result, they have started to invest in Bitcoin. And there is news about that all along. And we talked about how institutional investors coming in is a good thing because they hold and invest for the long term. They're not like retail investors who will just, sell at the next price rise. So some of the news, right? Bitcoin ETFs. ETFs are like mutual funds in India, right? So ETFs have started to come in. US, there are proposals for Bitcoin ETFs in the US market. The US regulatory authorities are looking at it. They may or may not approve it, but that is only a matter of time. Other countries have already done that. Canada already has a Bitcoin ETF. Some other countries already have Bitcoin ETFs. What is the importance of an ETF and what is the significance? With an ETF or a mutual fund kind of product, what happens is that a rush of money can come in because most people don't understand how to invest in Bitcoin and all that. But if you can just invest in a mutual fund or an ETF, which will invest further into Bitcoin, that is an easy way to invest in an asset class which is performing. And so ETFs is going to open floodgates when that comes. Then let's look at what is the closest thing to ETFs. GBTC. In the US, there is a company called Grayscale, which has a Bitcoin fund, which is traded like a stock on the stock market. And GBTC fund has, in the third quarter, right, Q3 of 2020, they had record-breaking numbers. They had $1 billion worth of cash inflows that came in, and money that was invested into GBTC, and 81% of that money was coming from institutional investors, meaning companies, hedge funds, etc. Right? So they are a sign of if the market is open wider, and they're not even yet looking at the retail volumes. These numbers don't include retail volumes. So when the market is open much wider, imagine the kind of money that can come in. Uh, this growth was 10 times higher than the previous quarter. So you can see the rate at which this thing is growing. Now we also have institutional investors coming into Bitcoin, right? Or institutions that have started accepting Bitcoin. So what are the news around that? Fidelity, it's a brokerage firm, right? Fidelity is where I open my, what we call in India, it is like a demat account. So I open my Fidelity account and I can buy and sell stocks. So Fidelity is a company that has just recently submitted a proposal again to the regulatory authorities in the United States to create a Bitcoin fund. Now, they also want to get a Bitcoin fund out there so that institutional investors can invest into Bitcoin. Fidelity just recently released a report, and in that report, they said that Bitcoin is going to be the best performing asset class going forward for years to come. We have news from JP Morgan. JP Morgan, which until 2 years ago kept saying that Bitcoin is a scam and it is worthless, I think about 3 weeks ago came out with a report where they said that Bitcoin is going to outperform every other asset class. They have finally understood it. BlackRock last week. BlackRock is one of the largest, again, investment firms in the US, and they came out saying exactly the same thing. ARK Invest. ARK Invest is a firm that has many ETFs, and they are a firm that is focused on emerging technologies, and they are one of the best perform. They have 5 or 6 different ETFs, and all of them are best performing ETFs across different categories. And ARK Invest has already invested in Bitcoin through GBTC fund, but they believe that Bitcoin again is going to be the best performing asset class. Now, these are serious institutions. I mean, JP Morgan Chase, BlackRock, ARK Invest, these are some of the biggest financial institutions in the world. And they have already started saying that Bitcoin is here to stay. We have public companies. We have news literally from public companies who are putting their reserve assets into Bitcoin. Two big news. August this year, the first one was MicroStrategy. It's a publicly listed company. It's not a private company, and that is important because public companies are highly regulated. They have higher scrutiny, and they cannot do things that are considered illegal. So if Bitcoin was considered illegal, I don't think a public company could have just gone and invested into Bitcoin. They went ahead and put half their balance sheet, which is all the cash reserve assets that they had on their balance sheet. They said, well, holding money in cash is not a good idea, because cash meaning dollars, fiat currency, because if we keep holding on to it, it will just keep getting devalued because money printing is happening, as we can see around the world. And so we will go buy Bitcoin from this, and the value because Bitcoin is a great store of wealth. They went ahead and put $425 million in one go in their of their treasury funds into Bitcoin. And since August, I think their treasury fund value is already up by $250 million. Now that is more money than MicroStrategy makes through its regular business, right? MicroStrategy, I think, makes a revenue of $30 million a year. And now in 3 months, they have made 8 times that money by simply putting their cash in Bitcoin. So that's the impact. And do you think, what do you think will happen, right? This is a ripple effect. When one company does it and they see such success, don't you think other companies will notice? So it is only the beginning. And that's why we're saying this is early days, but its time has come. The next company.
But Vishesh, just a counterpoint there.
Yeah.
While it's a good thing, right? We know that Bitcoin is, even today, even if you take after the crash, also if you take the last three, it is more volatile than any other place of investment, right? It is going up if you take a 3-year period today, but it is volatile.
Yes.
And I'm not an expert, but it is possible that there will be crashes, probably not a crash like 2017, but mini crashes, right? And some of these institutional investors might enter at a wrong time and see a solid temporary crash, right? And even if one of them backs out, you know the ripple effect. Okay, even though it is not 2017, you know still a lot of people are putting money in Bitcoin purely to make some quick buck, right? They want to put for a month, take some money. It's still happening. Okay, I know today people are a lot more educated, but like you said, it's still early days. I don't have the numbers. I don't know if you have the numbers, but a lot of the people who are investing money in this are still retail investors. Retail investors basically who want to make a quick buck. So while large companies coming and putting money is a good thing, don't you think it is also a double-edged sword that one of them pulls out because for them, like you said, like this particular company, they put 50% of the balance sheet here. If the price starts dropping, and if that balance sheet is used for their regular operations and everything, they would want to play safe and exit at a point and come back later. It can happen, right? Because it's so volatile. Do you see that as a negative also? While in the long term, I know it's a positive. But do you think because of that, there will be probably mini crashes? It will not be a linear growth, and it will probably go to 50K and then it will drop to 30K. Then again go to 100K and drop. Do you think that's possible?
Yeah, absolutely possible, right? Yeah, volatility, I think, yes, because it's a small asset, it has volatility. So it will go up and down. Over the long term, it will always go up. Or at least for the near future, it will go up, but in the long term. But yes, I mean, I can say that I bought Bitcoin for 18,000 today, and tomorrow it goes down to 17,000. And if I've not understood Bitcoin, and if I don't know what is the whole point of Bitcoin, and that it will be volatile because it's such a small asset, that over a long period of time I will make money. If I keep holding on to it till 5 years, then this 17,000 can go much bigger, just like from $1 it's come to 18,000. Through that journey, it has had crashes, ups and downs. So now, question is, will these institutional investors come with that knowledge and mindset or not? And so there are two things to note here, right? So institutional investors don't just put money like you and me. I talk to you, I explain to you what Bitcoin is. I say, Davis, it's a great opportunity, and you get convinced, you go open your bank account and quickly just put your money. Institutional investors take time. That is why it has taken all these years. It's a slow process. They will get a lot of advice. They will learn the whole thing. They will understand everything, the basics, and then they will understand, okay, what is our risk exposure? How much volatility can we absorb? Not every company is going to put half their balance sheet. This is a very bold statement by MicroStrategy, but most companies will say, okay, let's put 10%. And the second example is exactly that. Square, which is the company whose CEO is the same CEO as the CEO of Twitter, Jack Dorsey. They've put 10% of their treasuries reserve. They don't want that exposure for their or that much exposure to Bitcoin because of its volatility. So different companies will have different strategies. They may put 1% to 20%, whatever that range may be. Some who are bullish like MicroStrategy go ahead and take a big bet on it. But the point is that institutional investors don't just buy things on a knee-jerk reaction. They will do a lot of research. And when you do research, when you understand Bitcoin, then you understand market cycles. And market cycles means that you will be invested in this thing for a long term. Their core business is not buying and selling Bitcoin. Their core business is what they do. MicroStrategy sells business intelligence tools, and they will continue to do that. They haven't hired a guy who will now sit on the computer and keep buying and selling their Bitcoin based on the price movement. So they buy it, they put it away, they store it. They know we've kept it for 5-10 years. So in that respect, I don't think that there will be companies who invest and then they just run away the first time the price crashes. They know, they've studied the previous market cycles, and they will when they go in, they will be aware that this will happen. But as long as we have a long-term horizon, it's fine. That's what I think will happen.
So you're saying because the institutional investors are putting the money in for the long term, and they will put the money in that they can keep in Bitcoin for the long term and be patient with it. They're not going to put the money through which they're going to run operations. They're not going to use it like a bank. So you're saying because of that, it'll be fine. And another thing I felt was because institutional investors are putting money, the retail investors are going to take this more seriously. Because today I want to read more about Bitcoin because all these companies are putting money, right? I want to know all these big companies are putting money. Maybe I'm missing out, right? So I want to read up on it. The more I read up on it, the more I understand the concept of Bitcoin and why it is something for the long term and not for the short term. And hence, even the retail investors, I think, with time, we will plan to stay invested in Bitcoin for years and not like a couple of days or a couple of weeks. To give my own example, back in 2017, a friend told me when Bitcoin was all up that, paisa dal de, mast hai, upar jane wala hai. And I put some money, I don't remember how much, I put some 15,000-20,000 bucks. And I didn't even know what blockchain is at that time. I purely put that money because I had that extra money at that time. I didn't care. I said, okay, let's put it, let's see. And then it crashed. I forgot about it. The exchange through which I bought that shut down. Anyway, I lost that thing. But the entire thing is now when I'm putting money, I have put again, say similar amount of money last week, but I studied about it. I studied about it for a month. We have been discussing it about a month. I have a clearer idea and I don't care tomorrow if it crashes and goes down to 10K because I know in the long run, it will touch a higher number. So I think this is like me. I'm sure there are a lot of people who initially got onto Bitcoin because like it was like gambling, right? Let's put money, let's take it out tomorrow, or let's take it out a couple of weeks later.
Yeah, but now, I think and there are a lot of people who are still doing that.
Oh yeah. And I think they are the people because of which the price is volatile. But it is going to slowly, I think, get better with time. But yeah, I think it's important that you shared all these examples of various companies investing into it.
सो गाइज ये एपिसोड थोड़ा लंबा हो रहा था तो इस एपिसोड को हम 2 पार्ट्स में ब्रेक कर रहे हैं. यू जस्ट सॉ द पार्ट 1. पार्ट 2 में विशेष विल टेल यू मोर रीजंस ऑन व्हाई ही इज बुलिश अबाउट बिटकॉइन. He will give you more examples of institutional investors and all the big happenings that happened with Bitcoin in 2020. And you don't have to wait for another 4-5 days or a week for that episode to come out. We will put that up on our podcast channel and on our YouTube channel tomorrow. So stay tuned. Let us be clear कि हम आपको क्रिप्टो करेंसीज में इन्वेस्ट करने को नहीं कह रहे हैं. हम बस इंफॉर्मेशन और हमारी ओपिनियन शेयर कर रहे हैं. अगर आपको क्रिप्टो करेंसीज में इन्वेस्ट करना है तो खुद से रिसर्च कीजिए और फिर इन्वेस्ट करिए. अगर आप हमें YouTube पर देख रहे हैं तो लेट मी टेल यू दैट वी आर ऑल्सो अवेलेबल ऑन पॉडकास्ट प्लेटफॉर्म्स लाइक Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Gaana and more. Link is there in the description.
You can reach out to us through any of our different social media channels. Details of all of them are below in the description.